All right, so I've had a couple people ask for an additional example or a couple examples for calculating consumer surplus, producer surplus, and deadweight loss. Thought if I did it on a computer, you could see me, I could kind of shade in the regions that you're calculating. So let's say that we have this situation here. Here's a supply curve and a demand curve. Now, if no authorities, if no organizations are enforcing some kind of artificial price, if this is a free market and the forces of supply and demand are allowed to determine the price of the product, whether it's a good or a service, then the price here is going to be the equilibrium price, which is here 70. Okay, so I'm going to bring a price line over, and I'm going to put that in right here at 70. And you also know that the quantity produced will be the equilibrium quantity, which is down here, which is 600. So I'm going to bring a quantity line over, and I'm going to put it right there at 600. Okay. Now I want to show you that this price line and the demand curve, whoops, sorry about that, create a triangle right in here. And the region that is below the demand curve but above the price line, so the left is the axis, the top of the region is the demand curve, the bottom of the region is the price line, and the right boundary of the region is the quantity line. Okay? Now you can see that there's a point created at the quantity line, and so really it's just a triangle. It has three sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in here, I'm going to shade in this region here. This region that you're looking at, this triangle is consumer surplus. Okay? The region down here that is below the price line but above the supply curve and bounded on the right side by the quantity, the vertical quantity line, this triangle right here represents producer surplus. Okay? So I'm going to bring over a triangle that represents producer surplus. Okay. Now, in this particular situation, there is no deadweight loss. The deadweight loss would be a region over here, a triangle over here that is to the left of the quantity, or excuse me, not to the left. The deadweight loss is always on the right side of the quantity line, but as long as the market has the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity, then there will be no deadweight loss. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to calculate consumer surplus, producer surplus, and deadweight loss. Now deadweight loss is easy because there is no region, because we have equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity, therefore deadweight loss is automatically 0. So we're done with deadweight loss. Okay. Now to calculate consumer surplus and producer surplus, we are going to need a formula for the area of a triangle, because the consumer surplus and producer surplus are represented by the area of the triangles that they represent. So here is the area of a triangle. Area is equal to 1/2 base times height. So you may ask, well then what is the base and what is the height? Well, these are right triangles, and in a right triangle, one of the legs is the base and the other leg is the height, and it does not matter which one is which. Now, you may want to call this the height, and that's fine. You may want to call this the base, and that's fine too. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to, for consumer surplus, this represents the height of consumer surplus, and the height is going to be the high end here, the price that's up here, minus the price that's down here. We want the distance of this line. Well, the top of the line is at, let's see, here's 105. This one over here is 119. So it has to be halfway between. And the halfway between is probably, they're going up by sevens, right? Here we got 7, then 14, then 21, then 28, then 35. So 105 plus 7, that's 112. So the height of this consumer surplus triangle is 112. And then we're going to subtract away the price right here, because that's the bottom. So the top is 112. This line right here is 70. So we're going to subtract away 70, and that will give us 42. So the height of this line right here is 42, okay? and that's the height of the triangle. Now the base is going to run from here over to here. Now here the quantity, so we got to go along the quantity along the bottom. Right here is 0, and all the way over here is 600. So it's 600 minus 0, or just 600. So the base of this triangle is 600. And so now to get consumer surplus, we basically just have to do 1/2 times base, which is 600, times height, which is 42. So I'm going to pull up a calculator, and we're going to do 1/2, which is 0.5, times base, which is 600, times height, which is 42. Press enter, and we get 12,600. And therefore, the consumer surplus in this situation is 12,600. Now, to find the producer surplus, we're going to do the same thing. This is a triangle. Okay, so we're going to use the area formula, 1/2 base times height. Well, what is the height of producer surplus here? The height, again, is going to be the higher number right here minus the lower number right here. Well, the price up here, the higher number here, that is 70. And the number down here at this point is 14. So we're going to do 70 minus 14, which is 56. So the height of this triangle is 56. Now we need the base. The base goes from here all the way over to here, which, just like consumer surplus, is 600. So the base is 600. And now we just need to do 1/2 times the base, 600, times the height, 56. And so we're going to go to the calculator, and we're going to do 1/2, 0.5, times the base, 600, times the height, 56, and we get 16,800. And therefore, producer surplus is 16,800. And now we have, in this problem, we have identified the consumer surplus, the producer surplus, and we have identified the dead weight loss. Okay? All right, so what if this is a situation now where the price is not, where the price is not the equilibrium price. Let's say that there is a price floor. Let's say that the government has imposed a minimum price of $91. So we're going to move the price line up here to 91. Well, if the price line is 91, let's move this quantity line out of the way for a minute. Suppliers are willing to supply all the way over here, which is about somewhere above 800, right? Okay, I think it's like maybe 860 or something like that, or 830 something. But demanders are only willing to purchase 300. So suppliers are making over 800 of them, but demanders, they're only buying 300 of them. Therefore, 300 is how much is going to be purchased in the market. And honestly, that's basically what suppliers are going to make, because if they make any more than that, it's not going to sell. So we're going to go ahead and set the quantity line at 300. Well, when we set the quantity line at 300, you can see that the consumer surplus triangle, the region above the price and below the demand curve and bounded by the quantity over here on the right, that is a much smaller triangle. Okay, so this little tiny triangle right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this shaded region a lot smaller. There we go. And there we go. And now you can see that consumer surplus is much smaller. But producer surplus looks larger, right? But now producer surplus is no longer the shape of a triangle, okay? We do have, here's producer surplus. It's the region above the supply curve, that's up here, below the price curve, that's down here, and bounded on the right side by the quantity line. So this is going to create what we call in math a trapezoid. And a trapezoid, very simply, is in some situations is just a triangle combined with a rectangle. So we're going to put this triangle in here. There it is. And we're going to put a rectangle in here as well. And so this region right here, bounded by quantity and price and the supply curve, this strange shape, which is called a trapezoid, that is producer surplus, okay? Now we have this region in here. See, this is what the quantity would be if we had equilibrium quantity. And whenever the price is not equilibrium price, we always wind up with a triangle right in here, just to the right of consumer surplus and producer surplus. And that is what we call deadweight loss. And so now what you're looking at is a great example of a situation where we have a consumer surplus, a strange-shaped producer surplus, and a deadweight loss. And so now, here, I forgot to fill this in before, the price is going to be, in this case, 91, and the quantity produced is going to be only 300, okay? And now we want to calculate, just like we did before, we want to calculate consumer surplus, we want to calculate producer surplus, and we want to calculate deadweight loss. Now deadweight loss is not going to be 0, okay? But here's what I want to show you before we jump into this is we're going to need another formula. In addition to the triangle formula, we're going to need a formula for the area of a rectangle. Why are we going to need the area of a rectangle? Well, because producer surplus is made up of a triangle and it's made up of, includes a rectangle. So to find producer surplus, we're actually going to find two regions and then add them together, okay? All right, well, let's do consumer surplus. We're going to do it the exact same way we did it before. We're going to do the top number, which is 112. 112 minus the lower number here, the price is 91, and that gives us 112 minus 91 is 21. Okay, so the height of this triangle is 21. The base starts over here and goes over to the quantity line right here, which is 300. So the distance from here over to here is 300. I'm going to put in 300. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the triangle formula. I'm going to do 1/2 times base, which is 300, times height, which is 21. Okay? So 1/2, 0.5, times base, 300, times height, which is 21, is 3,150. So consumer surplus is 3,150. Okay? All right, now we're going to do producer surplus. Now, like I said, for producer surplus, we're going to have to do a triangle and a rectangle, okay? So let's do the triangle first. The area of this triangle right here is going to be, we're going to do the height of the triangle, and it looks like right here is 42 minus, down here is 14, so the height here is going to be 42 minus 14. All right, so 42 minus 14 is equal to 28. All right, and then the base of this triangle, okay, is going to run from here over to here, which again is 300, okay? So the base is 300, all right? And so now the area is going to be 1/2 times 28, or times base, which is 300, times height, which is 28. So let's go here. We're going to do 0.5 times base, 300, times height, which is 28. And that's going to give us 4,200, okay? So producer surplus, now we're not actually, it's not 4,200 because 4,200 really is only just this triangle. Now we have to do over here, we have to do the area of this rectangle. So we have to do another, let's see here, copy, there we go. Okay, do something here. I'm just setting up the calculation for the rectangle. All right, okay, so let's do the height and the base, which is done the same way. The height of this, of this rectangle is going to be the top number, 91, minus the low number, 42. So the height is going to be 91 minus 42, which is equal to 49. So the height of this rectangle is 49. The base looks the same as the base of the triangle. It goes from here all the way over to here, and so that's 300. And so the base of this rectangle is 300. And so now when we do this calculation, we're going to do the same as a triangle, but we're not going to do 1/2. We're just doing base times height. So we're doing 49 times 300. Okay, all right, so 49 times 300, and that's 14,700. So 14,700. So really, we have to add these two numbers together to get the total producer surplus. So producer surplus total is equal to 14,700 plus 4,200. And so let's go over here. Plus 4,200 is 18,900. So producer surplus is 18,900 in this particular case. Whoops. Let's, why don't we combine these two together. There we go. All right. So far for this example, we have consumer surplus is 3,150. Producer surplus total is 18,900. And now we need to calculate the deadweight loss, which is this region right here. Now, this region is also a triangle. And so we need to do the area of a triangle. We got to do 1/2 base times height. The problem is that this is not a right triangle. So basically what we have here is we have the height, but we don't have the base. Well, how would we find the base? The base has to be a straight line over. It has to be a horizontal line, not a diagonal line. So we can't measure this diagonal line. We have to do the height, and then we have to multiply it. The base is actually a horizontal line, so we have to measure the distance from here over to here, okay? All right, so the height of this deadweight loss triangle is this number, this high number, minus this low number, which is actually the same as this triangle right here, right? Or this rectangle right here. It's 91 minus 42. So the height is going to be 91 minus 42, which we've already found before is 49, okay? All right, now the base is going to be the distance from the quantity over to the equilibrium quantity. So it's the loss, the deadweight loss is the loss in quantity produced that we would produce if it was the market equilibrium. All right, so we have 300 here, and we have 600 over here, so the base is going to be 600 minus 300, which is 300, okay? So the height is 49, the base is 300. All we have to do now is 1/2 base times height. 1/2 base is 300, height is 49. And so we're going to go here, and we're going to do 0.5 times base is 300 times height is 49, and that is 7,350. So the deadweight loss is $7,350, okay? And that is how you calculate deadweight loss, okay? All right, so that's it. Now, you could just as easily do consumer surplus if let's say the price instead was a price ceiling and it was all the way down here. The situation would be the same, only this right here would be consumer surplus instead, and we would change the color of it to this, and then this region would be consumer surplus, and now consumer surplus would require a triangle and a rectangle. Producer surplus would be significantly smaller, and there would still be a deadweight loss, okay? All right, I hope this helped a lot, and I hope that you're able to calculate these things. It really is as simple as calculating area. I just understand that it's difficult to see where the area is, okay? All right, good luck to you, and I will see you later.